Welcome, cinema folks. My name is Jeremy, and I'm here to discuss today's movie, which is Dead Poets Society. This movie was produced in 1989, a surprising 3 years before I was born. It was produced by Touchstone Pictures in partner with Silver Screen Partners, number 4. Touchstone Pictures has also produced such films as Good Morning Vietnam, which is also another Robin Williams film, Father of the Bride Part 1 and 2, and Armageddon, which is my all-time favorite film. The director of this film is an Australian guy by the name of Peter Weir, excuse me, who has also directed things such as The Truman Show and Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. The screenwriter for this film is none other than Tom Schulman, who is known for also writing Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag and a childhood favorite of mine, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Although this film was nominated for multiple awards after its debut, it only went on to win a couple. A couple of awards that it did win were an Oscar from the Academy Awards for Best Screenwriting for a Screenplay, and then it went on to win 2 awards at the British Academy of Film and Television Awards. Those were for Best Film and Best Original Film Score. A few of the actors in this film are well known, one especially to my generation. The lead role in this film is played by the brilliant and sadly deceased Robin Williams. He plays John Keating, or Professor Keating. I remember growing up and always seeing him in a new role and immediately knowing that this film would be great. I remember Miss Doubtfire, Flubber, Good Morning Vietnam, Good Will Hunting, of course, and the wonderful Patch Adams, just to name a few. If you remember, not only was he just in these movies, but in most of his movies he was the lead role. His death has taken a toll on so many lives, and his impact will continue to live on through his films and his story. Rest in peace, Robin. You are greatly missed. Another actor we see in this film is Robert Sean Leonard. He is playing the role of Neil Perry, a very confused young man who is being pulled in 2 different directions, one by his mind and the other by his father. I see this as irony and symbolism to the life of Robin Williams today. Depression and confusion can lead a man to do crazy things, as we witness here. Well, maybe I should stop. I'll say no more. Don't want to give away any plot points. Leonard is also known for acting in Swing Kid, Age of Innocence, and something that I found interesting was that he plays the lead role in the television show House, which is another classic from my generation. One other person I would like to point out in this film is Ethan Hawke. He is Todd Anderson, who is Neil's roommate, and the new kid at the school. To me, he is seen as a voice of reason and maturity to Neil in his time of outlandish ideas. We see he is also the one affected most by the teachings of Keating and the downfall of Neil. Although not as well known as Williams and Leonard, Hawke has played in a few other films such as Training Day, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. This film is so important, and the reason it is deeply cared about today is because of some of the underlying themes that it brings to life. First being the thought of carpe diem, or seize the day. Professor Keating continually brings this thought forward to the boys by them taking hold of their own future. He is telling them that they should start now, because I feel like he's afraid they'll end up getting in a rut like he did. And he wants them to turn out better than him. This is still true today. If we as adults don't grasp the figurative bull by the horns and take control of our own destiny, we will fail to succeed. Don't get me wrong. If your parents have made a great living for themselves or have done great things in their lives, then by all means, don't not follow in their footsteps. I feel the writer here is just simply trying to encourage individuality and uniqueness, and being able to embrace your uniqueness. In here lies my first question. What character do you feel like most embodies the phrase carpe diem? And how do they do this? Were they set it for success, or were they set it for failure? You tell me. Another thing that was brought out in this film goes hand in hand with carpe diem. That is the freedom of choice. I see this as a theme that differs from carpe diem because you must choose your own destiny. Destiny is not something that can be chosen for you. Many a parent or an authoritative figure have tried to make the decisions for their children, but ultimately, it has to be made by the individual themselves. Something I believe the audience should gather from this film is the thought of rebellion versus passion. In today, we think of people of the youth of America as rebelling against authority. But are they really rebelling? Or are they just trying to express themselves in a way that today's society deems unfit or unruly? I'm not saying that everyone should be running amok, burning down buildings and blowing things up, don't get me wrong. But as a whole, America seems to look down on people who are different from the social norm, such as people with wildly colored hair, people with numerous tattoos, or even people that just choose to live the nomadic lifestyle. If more people would choose to look at these individuals as passionate and not rebellious, we would have a better understanding of societies. These outlets that I mentioned above are ways that people are passionate about something, and by using this passion to drive them, they will be able to find and achieve their true destiny in life. Like I said, we should all be trying to accomplish this. So, on to question number 2. At this stage in your life, what do you feel is your true passion? And how do you, or how will you, use that to lead you to your own destiny? Can you relate yourself with anyone in this film? If so, how? I am going to answer this one for you since it's not about the actual film and it's more about self. To share with you a little about myself, I am a former band, choir, and theater junkie. I always thought that it would be in those kind of fields that I would pursue a career and that it would make me so happy. Excuse me. I come from a long line of people that work in the medical field and also felt a calling there as well. So college rolls around and decisions have to be made, and I end up pursuing the career of nursing and just decided to do the others as a hobby or an extracurricular, which I did and loved every minute of it. Now 3 years out of my first degree and working on a second degree, I'm taking a cinema class that reminds me of all the joys that I had doing my quote-unquote extracurriculars. Where does my true passion lie? And do I have more than one? If I do, how do I combine the two? I connect greatly with Neil Perry in this film, seeing as he has many passions and can't seem to differentiate between what he really wants to do and what his father wants him to do. There is something that I also feel that we can gain from the screenwriter of this film, Tom Schulman. While preparing for this project and doing research, I found an article about the writing of this screenplay. Schulman stated that he had a very difficult time writing this and believing in it at the same time, that it would be a success because of the time frame. The time frame that this movie was made in, all the hit movies at the time in the late 80s were of villains and heroes, and here he was writing about poetry in preparatory school. He was a little confused. He finally realized that he had to write what he believed in, and the rest would just fall into place. It only seems appropriate that it falls into place with all the themes of this movie as well. Schulman follows his thoughts and dreams and was able to come out on top with an extraordinary film that was a huge success. Some seem to think that this screenplay is loosely based off his own life because and some of his experiences that he encountered at Montgomeryville Academy in Nashville as a child. Something I found interesting from my research was that the original script had an alternate ending. It was written to have William's character dying of cancer in a hospital, and therefore this being the reason that he was teaching such quote-unquote outlandish things to all the children at the school. Peter Weir, the director, refused to make such a film that stood up for so much and then in the end would show that it was all just a hoax and that people should not follow their dreams. He requested that the ending be changed to the classroom scene where all the students stand on their desk waving goodbye to Professor Keating, or "Oh Captain, my Captain." He said this would show that the students really did understand and they took his teachings to heart. Question number 3. If you had free range to change any other scene in this film, what would you change? Or would you change anything? How do you think your change would affect the themes of this film? One of the most famous lines of this film is, like I said earlier, "Oh Captain, my Captain." One thing I believe everyone should know is these words are not originally uttered by the writer of this film. They're originally Walt Whitman's words in a poem about the late Abraham Lincoln in 1865. This is what Keating asked the class to call him in place of his name. A few assumptions as to why he chose this is first being the obvious that Walt Whitman was an unbelievably great poet and was talking about an extraordinary person. So it was only rightfully so that he wanted to be called by this name. So, question 4. Why do you think Keating wants his class to call him by this name? Is there symbolism in the character? You tell me. One final thing I want to leave you with is my favorite quote from the film, stated by John Keating, and since hearing it, I've turned it into a motto for my life. It states, "Sucking the marrow out of life doesn't mean choking on the bone." To me, this means get everything out of life that you can, but don't spend so much time trying to obtain just the marrow that you can get distracted and start to choke on the full bone itself. Thank you for a wonderful class, Professor Shackelford, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. Jeremy Moore, signing out.